So I'll take a little walk around here and kind of show you where we're at. And it's going to be a little different right now. I don't have my selfie stick. It's been compromised. But we are here at Fort Ligonier in beautiful Pennsylvania. And it's funny, I keep finding it rather amusing that the Lord keeps taking me to places of battle, I mean, I know what spiritual battle is, sorta, but this is something a little different. But I've been learning about military history as I've been going along here. The Lord wants to beef up my knowledge. I don't know why, but there you go. But it's interesting because we find out a lot about what happened around here with George Washington and how he had to stop a really bad case of friendly fire. And it's been placed upon my heart to talk about that because, you know what? I mean, it's kind of what's been happening in our world right now. And if you could kind of take a different perspective, then you can look at things from a different point of view, and you can see how we could possibly be looking at each other as the enemy and fighting the wrong people, going after, I don't know where we're going. Ooh, look at this, check this out. Ooh, what is over here? I don't know, I don't want to go in there. I'm gonna just leave it as it is and realize that this might have been really tough if the weather was bad, like when a flood would hit or whatever. That would be bad. But yeah, as far as friendly fire is concerned, I equate that with many quote-unquote Christians and people who claim to follow Christ, but yet they're not doing the words that he told us to live by, So if you're doing it and you're doing it right, then it's not going to be like a case of friendly fire, and you're not going to be going after the wrong people. We're supposed to be loving one another and not fighting each other and not looking at each other as if we're the enemy, and that's the whole thing here that happened when it came to friendly fire. And that's what the Holy Spirit kind of led me to gain from this. I'm not a military expert by any means, but I have been in some spiritual battles, and I could tell you one thing that the Lord's been leading me and teaching me, and that is to love one another as you would love yourself, right? Treat each other with love and respect, and you don't have to agree with certain lifestyles. Maybe people, some people are living in ways that you just don't agree with, but you know what? Can you at least understand that person has feelings? And who knows, some of them might look just like your own children. And God will do that on purpose so that you can understand and have love in your heart and not hold any bitterness or hate or animosity towards someone you don't even know, and that's what's going on. So, and this is a weird kind of angle I'm dealing with right now, but my selfie stick broke right when I was led to do this live. I'm like, okay, you still want me to do it? Okay, that's all right, I'll do it. But that's what it is, okay? So there are a lot of quote-unquote Christians who are who feel like they are much more knowledgeable, and they can recite passages from the Bible and they can memorize things so beautifully, and that's great. We all have wonderful gifts, but we don't want to point the finger and hate one another just because we're a little different, The Lord still is using us in many different ways, and some ways you might not even realize, So, just trust in Him and understand He's going to put people in your path, and you're not going to understand why. And sometimes it's those very people that you might disagree with that are going to help change you and push you into a different direction that the Lord wants you to go in. And you can call the Lord the universe if you want. That's fine. It's fine. But He did create it, by the way. But I'm not, I'm not an expert on anything. But I do, I do kind of listen and pay attention when the Lord is speaking to my heart. And so when he kind of led me here to another battle scene, another fort, which is so funny. But that's what I took from this, because it was a huge mistake that happened with a case of friendly fire, and then I guess George Washington had to get in front of so many that were fighting and trying to stop them, and if you've got like 1,000 men shooting muskets and I bet it was really hard to hear, and so he's like got his sword and trying to stop them from fighting. But we've got to stop fighting each other, and realize that when you're holding hate and bitterness in your heart and you're fighting against people that might not hold the very same values that you do, but yet, you know what, they're still living, breathing, they still have hearts and they still have love. And we need to treat each other like that, love each other. And that's all we can do, and hopefully while we're here, we're going to learn and we're going to grow and we're going to become better people, and we're going to stop fighting each other and start loving each other and learning from each other. How about that? Wouldn't that be something? So I would just say, why don't you start studying the beautiful teachings of Jesus Christ and doing His words, not just listening to them and thinking it sounds beautiful, but actually doing them, because that's what's going to save us, is if we all start loving each other and stop fighting each other for once, So that's my take on it, and I could sit here. The guy who did the little speech about Fort Ligonier did a really good job, but I'm not a war buff. I might end up being a spiritual war buff. Who knows? But all I know is that if you consider yourself a good person, you should probably agree with the things that Christ spoke of. And if you can live your life like it doesn't matter what quote unquote religion you are. What matters is how you treat yourself and others. And that's the true reflection of God here on earth, is how we're living and treating each other. So, yeah, if you're holding hate in your heart and you're fighting or having animosity and hatred towards certain people, or even, oh my gosh, please just stop just start loving each other. How about that? At the very least, just have respect and kindness, and just love in your heart. That's all. So that's what I took out, and and I'm sure there's a lot more that people can gain from this. And but when the words "friendly fire" hit my ears, that's what I took from it, was the fact that so many people are fighting against themselves, really. You know, we should be having love in our hearts, and love each other as ourselves. So that's where I'm going to leave you here. But this was kind of exciting and cool, Fort Ligonier, Pennsylvania. It's very. Oh, it was raining earlier and it's nice now. But again, just realize, how much goes into fighting battles, and how we can avoid a lot of confrontations just by respecting one another. You don't have to agree, you can disagree and still love that person, let them be, on their own journey, just like you're on your own journey. And let's stop fighting each other and start loving each other and learning from the words of Christ, and actually doing those things, instead of just listening to his words and walking out of church and thinking that you're good, because actions are really important too. So I'm going to leave you here with that, with my take on Fort Ligonier and friendly fire, and how we should be loving and respecting each other much more than we are, and that when you're treating your neighbor as an enemy, you're actually fighting yourself. So I hope that you got something out of this, and that you will try and learn from these things. A lot of wars don't have to be fought. All right, so you have a good one, and God willing, we will talk soon. Okay.